Hello, this is Ed Rigsbee. I'm the executive director of the Scarpeg Philanthropy Through Fund. We host the Virtual Speakers Hall of Fame. Welcome to the October 2023 Virtual Speakers Hall of Fame. This is live. All of the speakers are presenting live, and afterwards you will have access to all of the speakers' contact information. Because we are a nonprofit, we are not a speakers bureau, we totally allow you to connect directly with the speakers and negotiate your best deal. Also, at the end of the year, you will have the opportunity to vote for who's going to be inducted into the 2023 Virtual Speakers Hall of Fame. So everybody that is an attendee to any of our showcases will get a emailed opportunity to vote. And I would encourage you, they would appreciate it. Vote for who you like, vote for who you think was the best. And then we will have the inductees for the 2023 Hall of Fame. So let's get this thing going. Our first speaker is Bill Humbert, recruiterguy.com. He is the Bing and Google ranked #1 talent attraction consultant. Today, he's speaking on the power of proper goal setting. I give you Bill Humbert.
Easter Sunday, 1969, in Hyattsville, Maryland. I was an Assumption University sophomore home for Easter. After Mass, I picked up the Washington Post and began to breeze through Section A. Suddenly, I spotted a 4x5-inch ad from Greyhound saying that they would get you from DC to Los Angeles in 5 days. I immediately thought, if Greyhound can do it, I can do it. I learned how to properly set a goal at DeMatha Catholic High School several years earlier, and I created the acronym SCAMPS. The S means a goal must be specific with a strategy to meet your goal. The C is challenging. Your brain likes exciting things. They like challenges. The A, though, it looks and sees if it's attainable, because if it's not interested. The M is it must be measurable. The metrics help you tell where you are in progress towards meeting your goal. The P is it needs to be public, only among the people who will support you. They'll keep you accountable. The final S is it has to have a specific end date. So I like to say that the S's in SCAMPS are the bungee cord that keeps SCAMPS together. I set a goal to hitchhike from DC to LA in 5 days that summer, before the interstates were completed. My strategy was to recruit a friend from Assumption to join me. We decided that we needed to be in Kansas City by the second night. Then we'd take I-70 to Kansas City, head south on I-35, and then take Route 66 to Santa Monica from there. I created signs, and these are the signs that I created to get to LA. So the Saturday morning that we started, we left Beltsville, Maryland, and we got on the I-495 West ramp in Beltsville. And we were only there about 15 minutes, and I had my LA sign up, and I was, we were both really excited. And an old Falcon station wagon stopped, and the driver was an older gentleman, and he had painting ladders on the roof and 5-gallon pails of paint behind the back seat. And he rolled down his window and he said, "Are you guys really hitchhiking to LA?" And we said, "Yes, sir, we are." And he said, "Jump in. I can only give you a ride around to Connecticut Avenue." And I thought, well, that's a start. Then he proceeded to tell us that he was a talented painter in the 1920s in LA. In 1929, a gentleman approached him and extended him an offer to come to work for him. Well, our driver declined the offer from Walt Disney because he didn't think he was going to be successful. What a start. So we went around to Connecticut Avenue and we made it all the way to Kansas City by our second night. Now, we spent the night in our sleeping bags in the grass on the interchange between I-70 and I-35, and the mosquitoes were terrible. Oh my gosh. The next morning, we received 3 rides to just north of Wichita. We stood on a ramp there and we put the LA sign up again. Hey, it worked the first time. A car pulling a U-Haul with a young couple stopped right in front of us. And they had a 3-year-old in one of those old car seats that today we would call an ejection seat in the back. And they asked, can you guys help us drive to LA? Ooh, yes. So we made it to LA in 5 days. Now, sadly, we arrived in LA the week after Sharon Tate and her friends were brutally murdered. However, our goal was met. We set our next goal. We decided that we were going to hitchhike from Santa Monica or LA to San Francisco and do it in 24 hours. We were going to go straight up 101. So we received 3 rides from Huntington Beach to Santa Monica. We stood on 101 in Santa Monica, and a old Oldsmobile with 4 hippie chicks stopped. Oh, yes. They were good recruiters. The ones on the right got out, put Jack in the front seat between 2 of them, put me in the back seat between 2 of them, and then they leaned into us, nice and soft. And they said, what's your name? Bill. Where are you from? Washington, D.C. How'd you get here? Hitchhiked. Does anyone know where you are? Nope. They told us they lived on this ranch in the mountains, and their leader gave them drugs every night. And they said everyone had sex every night and did fun things. In my longer speech, I tell the rest of the story. Does our hitchhiking goal always work? The next summer, we set a goal to hitchhike to Santa Barbara in 5 days and achieved our goal. After finishing 2 English courses at UC Santa Barbara, we set a goal to hitchhike back to DC in 5 days, and we were successful. More importantly, proper goal setting applies to business activities. I began my talent attraction consulting business in 1999. And each contract, I set goals to help my clients hire the best candidates they need in the time frame they need. Beginning on January 1st, 1993, before the internet, and ending on December 31st, 1993, we needed to recruit a minimum of 120 IT professionals for Cedar Rapids, Iowa. I created the recruiting strategy and built consensus with the hiring managers in systems analysis, systems development, and testing. Together, we met our goal. On December 31st, we counted noses and seats, 143, 10 of whom relocated from DC. Proper goal setting is very powerful. Use SCAMPS and you will succeed. I speak on proper goal setting, talent attraction, and professional career search. You may find me on recruiterguy.com. Click on the red Speak with Bill button to put yourself on my calendar. Expect success.
Thank you, Bill. Appreciate that. I I don't know that hitchhiking would be my choice these days, but that's a great goal. Hey, let's get to our next speaker. Our next speaker is April Callis-Birchmeier. She knows the challenge of continuous change in her role as a change management expert. Not only is change stressful, but mismanaged change leads to employee disengagement, low retention, and change saturation. She shares her READY, READY framework with government, associations, and higher education clients, and has positively impacted change for hundreds of organizations. Now, to relax, she practiced her change management skills by transforming 6 teenagers into positive adults. Please welcome April.
Thank you so much, Ed. I appreciate it. Change is a transitional process, the objective of which is moving the organization and its stakeholders, its people, from the current state to the future state. Now, I know that sounds kind of dry, and it is, because it's a definition from the Association of Change Management Professionals. But what I want to talk with you about is the organizational change management process itself. Organizational change management are the tools and techniques that we use to help people move from where they currently are to a future state. And this could be a future state in your organization, such as a technology change, a new program change, a reorganization or restructuring, a new system. And whatever we have to do to help people to move from where they currently are to where we know we need to go is change management. We use the tools and techniques to help them. And so I decided, after many years, after decades of leading changes, to simplify the process that we use to help people make this move. And I call it the READY framework, as Ed referenced. So READY stands for the acronym stands for Relevant and Relatable Story of Change, engaging our leaders, advanced communication, developing people and supporting them through change, and then the why of change. And when you think of the READY framework, I want you to recognize that these pieces are kind of happening sequentially and also simultaneously to help people adopt change more easily. One of the reasons that it's difficult for people to adopt change is because of resistance. And we all have resistance. Resistance makes things feel very hard. And resistance is really common. We should expect it because it's our human response to change. If you're not sure that resistance is our human response, think about positive changes that you've tried to make in your life, such as, around January 1st, when you decide that you are going to resolve to exercise 7 days a week. You're going to go to the gym 7 days a week. And then by the second week of January, you think, well, maybe 5 days is enough. I'll take the weekends off. I'll get recovered. And then after another week, we're down to 3 days a week. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I'll go to the gym and I will work out and I'll make this positive change. Well, all change has a gain. All change has some sort of loss. And all change creates some sort of fear. And when we're thinking about how to help people navigate through change, it's important to recognize these stakeholder emotions. So when I'm thinking about what I'm going to gain with my change of going to the gym 5 days a week or 7, I'm thinking about the fact that I'm going to gain some weight loss. Well, I'm going to gain better health. That's my goal, is to improve my health. Now, what will I lose? I will lose sleep because I have to get up earlier to go to the gym in the morning. I will lose time because it takes time to get there, it takes time to work out, it takes time to come home. And so those are losses. And then what am I fearful about? Well, I actually have a fear that I will waste my money, that I won't go. And that worries me. And sometimes I have a fear that I won't wake up on time. And that makes me stay awake all night. And so there are many pieces going on for our stakeholders every time that we're leading them or helping them move through a change. But when we understand the root of resistance, we can more easily respond to that resistance. And so that's part of the why of the READY framework, is going back and revisiting the why. Why are we doing this? Why do we want people to do this? What's in it for them? So for the why, I usually look at 4 types of resistance. I have 4 avatars that we typically see in every change that we're talking about. There is a commander who is a great leader and supporter of the change. And when they become resistant, when they have this resistance mode, they become a fighter. So we have the commander fighter. When they're fighting with us, when they're fighting the change, when they're resisting and speaking negatively about the change, it's a real challenge. And I had a leader who was a terrific fighter, a terrific commander, but became an awful fighter for us. We had asked him to help us with an alert change. We had an EMR system, electronic medical record system, that actually was a problem with our implementation because we had the alert tolerance set too low, which meant that when the physicians were seeing their patients and they were using their laptop, their EMR, to see the patients, they were getting alert windows on their laptops saying, patient's height not recorded, patient's weight not recorded, patient's immunization status is out of date. And all of those things did not really belong to the physician. Those belong to the medical assistant. But because the alert tolerance was set too low, the physicians were seeing it. And we were worried because they started to routinely hit dismiss. And that's called alert fatigue. When you start to hit the alert dismiss over and over and over, we thought that meant some point that we would have a contraindication, like this medication is not recommended for this patient. And then they would hit dismiss. We were concerned we'd cause harm. Now, our leader, our commander, went and asked for the project to be able to change this alert. And he was turned down and came back as mad could be. And he said to us that we had let him down and hung him out to dry. He was frustrated. So I thought about, what are we going to do? We could not get this commander to start leading us again, to start promoting the change and being positive. And so I decided to tell him a story. I kind of spoke to him casually on the way out to the parking lot about that old tale of the boy who cried wolf. And, you know, the boy who cried wolf, he's a shepherd boy. He's out watching his flock of sheep every day. And one day he decides he's kind of bored, and he wondered what would happen if he cried wolf. So he does. He says, wolf, wolf, wolf. And all the townspeople come running with their shotguns and their shovels, and they say, where's the wolf? And he said, it ran away. And so the next day, the boy goes back out to watch his flock of sheep. He thinks that was kind of cool. He does it again. Wolf, wolf. Everybody comes running with their shotguns and shovels. Boy looks at them. I made it up. I'm embarrassed. I'm bored. So you know what happens with this story. The third day, the boy goes back out to watch his flock of sheep, and he is bored. He's looking around, but suddenly, out of the mountains comes this group of out of the mountains. Tigers come down, start lions, and they start to ruin kill his flock of sheep. And at that point in time, he screams, wolves, wolves, real wolves, they're coming, real wolves. And nobody comes. And that's alert fatigue. And that's what we were concerned about with our physicians. And so once our physicians heard this, that we were concerned about this, understood this flock of sheep, then they were on board, and our commander was able to go back and get approval. We also make sure that we talk about the socializer, the saboteur, the understander, underminer, and the detailer, derailer. So I'd love to help your teams learn how to better manage change. Thank you.
Thanks, April. I appreciate that. That's very, very good. Change is something that we always have to deal with. Let's get into our next speaker. His name is Aditya Guthey. Through his journey as a tech leader in consulting firms, he noticed that building a rocket when the client asked for a bike cost companies hundreds of thousands of dollars. Today, he will share insights on avoiding such costly overruns. Adi, take the stage.
Thank you, Ed. Here is my intent for a typical 45-minute session I run. You will learn how to increase customer satisfaction, improve technology teams' engagement, and overall company profits. In today's talk, I will give you a glimpse of what that would look like. Have you ever had a leak in your toilet? And when you call the plumber tells you, in order to fix the leak, you need to renovate the bathroom. The plumber wants to build a rocket when the client asks for a bike. It typically leads to projects running over budget in terms of time and money. Let's apply this analogy to something that very frequently happens in the technical industry. Let's, for the sake of confidentiality, take a company named Orange. Orange's CEO is running into an issue. Whenever he looks at a certain report, it is not showing any data. It's an indicative of a performance issue in the system. In order to fix the performance issue, Orange's team hired a technology team. And the technology team tells Orange team that in order to fix the performance issue, you need to upgrade your technology platform. The technology team wants to build a rocket when the client asks for a bike. That's what they end up doing. They end up upgrading Orange's team technology platform to the latest and greatest one. And guess what happens? It doesn't fix the performance issue. It's like the plumber renovates the bathroom, but it still doesn't fix the leak. You still can't take a shit. As a result, the client team was pissed. It caused a major disruption in both businesses. The technology team felt demotivated, and the project ran way over budget in terms of time and money. When I speak to CEOs about this issue, they tell me that on an average, misunderstanding business requirements cause companies anywhere between $100,000 to $200,000 in loss for every $1 million spent on a project. Not to mention the hidden costs that occur from the delay of future projects due to the current projects exceeding in budget in terms of scope, time, and money. So if you're not in the consulting world, tech consulting world, you might be wondering, Aditya, how does this do with me? What does this have to do with me? The core issue in the problem I just described is a communication gap that occurred between the client team and the technology team. But it can also happen within the same company between a business team and the technology team, or within the same technology team between the security team and infrastructure team, or between the infrastructure team and the development team, or between the marketing team and the technology team. The same communication can manifest itself in different ways. So what is the solution to this? The solution is aligned response delivery. Let me explain what that means. We all know that being able to listen is the foundation to be able to bridge a communication gap. However, many people don't talk about what does it mean to be a great listener? Do I keep listening until my ears bleed? Also, people don't talk about what gets in the way of being a great listener. And that's exactly what aligned response delivery framework covers. It covers 3 different components. Number 1, the initial component is thoughts mastery, which is a framework to remove the barriers that get in the way of being a great listener. It starts with understanding what those barriers are, because we know that 50% of solving a problem is understanding a problem. Once you remove the barriers through the thoughts mastery framework, you move into deep listening, where I deconstruct the process to be a great listener. And the last step in this framework is aligned response, where you craft your responses and actions in a way that yields the best outcomes. So the customer, you have happy customers, the technology teams is most engaged, and which overall increases the company profits. So if you know any company or an organization which is looking for speakers in the area of technology leadership or technical sales, would love to have you make an introduction. Thank you for this opportunity to present this topic in front of the esteemed speakers.
Thank you, Adi. Appreciate that. Well, let's keep this thing going. Our next presenter is Gregg Gregory, CSP. Teamwork. Yes, teamwork. Teamwork is the single greatest advantage any organization or department can have in today's multifaceted workplace. Gregg's OPT, or On-Purpose Teams system, focuses on 8 key elements ensuring team success. Great teams don't focus on the best players. They focus on the right players in the right roles, functioning together on purpose. Are you ready to get your teams to OPT or to opt in? Here is the creator and host of the international podcast, The Teamwork Advantage, and the author of the book, One Team, One Dream. I give you Gregg Gregory.
Thanks, Ed, and good morning, everybody. As we look around, we want you to think about a time frame in your life. I want you to go back to when you were 10 or 12 years old. It's a cold, rainy day. You've got to play indoors. So your best friend comes over and you go downstairs and you start playing in the basement, playing some video games. And after a while, one thing leads to another, a little roughhousing. And well, the next thing you know, something breaks. You hear the basement door open. You can hear your mother running down the steps. She's looking over at you and you can see how frustrated she is. She's screaming at the top of her voice and she says, "Why did you do this?" Trying the absolute best to bring the water to your eyes, hoping you might stop her from whooping you. You look up at her and say, "But Mom, I didn't do it on purpose." Those words, on purpose. What do they mean? What about your teams? Are your teams missing deadlines? Are your teams dropping the ball? Are your teams missing assignments? Are they arguing with each other? If you ask them why, would they say, "Well, I'm not doing it on purpose"? Our goal is to get you to function on purpose. So we've devised this program called the On-Purpose Teams Model. And the On-Purpose Teams Model focuses in and builds it in a very specific way. We put it all together like this. There are 4 keywords in the middle. Those 4 keywords in the middle start to build everything together, and they start off with the words that are what is individually based. Those individually based words are in blue. The red words represent those words that are team evolution focused, and that drives our culture. That's right, you can actually drive the culture by doing it this way, as opposed to creating a culture and trying to fit everything into it. So that's the model. Let's start, if we can, on what I consider the individual focus. Trust is at the foundation. I think we all know how important trust is. Herb Brooks designed that really, really well in the 1980 Olympics. He brought boys together from Boston and Minnesota who actually hated each other. They fought each other. They literally broke into fights on the ice. They didn't trust each other. So when Herb brought them together, everybody said, "You're missing some of the best players." He says, "I'm not looking for the best players. I'm looking for the right players." Because he knew with these particular players, he could mold them and get the chemistry he needed. Once you have the right chemistry you need, you can start to build trust. Once you get trust, then you can become relentless in the mission. Once you're relentless in the mission, then it's so powerful because you start to realize the things that you can do are endless. And we know how that turned out. We start to look at the 1980 hockey team when they defeated the Soviet Union. The Soviet Union did an amazing job fighting, but the US was victorious. Another great example of this is Apollo 13. Apollo 13 drives everything pretty powerfully. even before they had the disaster in space, Deke Slayton, director of flight operations, had a philosophy of any man, any mission. And when we're thinking about any man and any mission doing this, you look at the original crew, the crew of Jim Lovell, Ken Mattingly, and Fred Hayes, great and ready to go. 3 days, just 3 days before the launch, Ken Mattingly comes down with the German measles. He's scrapped and replaced with Jack Swigert. That could not have happened if they had not already built trust. That's the importance of having a great team with people who trust each other. And we're talking vulnerability trust. We're not necessarily talking predictive trust. That then takes it beyond. So let's go ahead and let's talk a little bit about vulnerability trust. What is vulnerability trust? It's a little bit different than predictive trust. Vulnerability trust is a space where leaders, managers, team members can effortlessly, comfortably, and swiftly acknowledge, without fear of retribution, their mistakes, their weaknesses, their hiccups, their failures, and most importantly, their need for assistance. That's allowing yourself to be vulnerable. Many people say, being vulnerable is a weakness. Being vulnerable is not a weakness. It is absolutely a strength. When we have that vulnerability trust, we can then focus in on our mission. The second word we talk about is being a powerful mission and having a mission mindset. Now, we're not talking the mission statement of the organization. So how do we develop that mission mindset in people? Well, basically, we get our attitudes, our decisions, our actions align with the team's purpose. We have passion and drive, which is very powerful for the youth of today. And we focus on long term. Let's stop looking at our to-do list for today and focus long term. That's what you start to recognize. Now, we've got to take ownership in what we're doing. We've got to know our roles. Nothing is more evident than watching a video here of 19 men changing 4 tires in less than 5 seconds. When you recognize that, they know their roles, they don't step on each other, they know what they've got to do. That is a team functioning on purpose. So, as we stop to think about that, let's look at another company. Well, an organization. Well, maybe our government. Abraham Lincoln's cabinet. Abraham Lincoln cabinet was called a team of rivals. And that was because he brought people in to give him differing points of view. So when you look at Abraham Lincoln's cabinet, you start to see Seward, Chase, and Bates actually ran against him in the primaries, and then Lincoln puts them on his cabinet. They vehemently opposed a lot of things that he stood for, but they came together, they built trust, they knew what they were doing. They were a group of people, a group of rivals who came together. Lincoln also had members on his cabinet and advisors from the Democrat side. That's what you start to recognize. The team focuses in on synchronization, engagement, accountability, and knowledge. Sharing of knowledge is so incredibly powerful. You've got to share that knowledge. More importantly, that knowledge has to be accepted. Let's look at the women behind Hidden Figures. Mary Jackson, Dorothy Vaughan, Katherine Johnson. These women had to work on one side of the campus and then bring everything over to the other side because of segregation. They had to do all of that. They had to go to the other side of campus just to go to the bathroom. Understand what was going on, yet they still shared their knowledge. It doesn't matter if somebody shares knowledge if the rest of the team is not accepting that knowledge. John Glenn said he would not go into space until Katherine Johnson verified the numbers that the computer had done. That's accepting of knowledge. Are your teams both sharing and accepting knowledge from others? Some ways that you can think about sharing knowledge is simple. And the benefits are it shortens the team's learning curve, it'll fortify relationships, and it's more efficient and effective to problem solve. So why aren't you solving problems that way? Getting people involved. Nicole Malachowski, the first Thunderbird pilot, female Thunderbird pilot in Air Force history, says it this way about her time on the Thunderbirds. Nothing of significance is ever accomplished alone. Think about that. When you get your team working on purpose, your turnover is reduced, you're amplified, you're enriched, it's morale is fun place to work. That's.
Thank you, Greg. Appreciate that. The necessity of teams is huge. I think everybody would agree with that. Let's move on to James Feldman, CSP.
Cut you off.
Yeah,
He's the
I'm surprised that he didn't let it.
I'll start that again. Let's move on to James Feldman, CSP. He is a transformation growth advisor who turns challenges into solutions for associations looking to revitalize, reinvigorate, and reimagine their future with his customized programs. I give you Jim Feldman.
Thank you, Ed. So let me ask you a question. Do you have too much month at the end of your money? Are you using the power of AI? Are you, in fact, able to leverage the power of AI for your business, for your association? Let me ask you this question a little bit differently. Are you ready to leverage it? Are you prepared for its competitive differentiation? AI is the new electricity. It's more powerful than fire. It's more powerful than the internet, and it's here. The only question is, do you fear it, or are you going to flourish with it? It is here, and you need to understand it, because we are all in the problem-solving business. You are in the problem-solving business, whether it's solving the problems for your association or the members of your association. They all are faced with the same kind of problems. Those problems are maybe different for one group versus another, but overall, there's the broken product, the long wait lines. Those things that we all deal with every single day are problematic. How are you going to solve them? And what are the promises that you and your association are making? Think about your everyday life, all the things that we're faced with. The delivery that didn't show up, the product that wasn't what you thought it was going to be, the money back guarantee that clearly wasn't so easy to get. And at the end of the day, what about the on-time promised delivery? When your cable TV company says, I'll be there somewhere between 2 and 5 on Thursday, and then they don't call you, but expect you to be sitting there waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting. We all want a satisfaction promise. We all want those promises to mean something. But with everything that's going on in the world, getting satisfied customers, understanding who your competitors are, and coming up with guarantees that are meaningful and executable are extraordinarily different. So what is it that you're saying? What is it that you are doing? What is it that your clients and your customers and your association members are doing to come up with irresistible offers? And I describe an irresistible offer as something that's so painful to walk away from, as opposed to how painful it may be to purchase. I need you in my life, and I'm willing to pay for it. But with everything that's going on, we now live in a now community. And that's why I've branded myself as the nowist. The nowist talks about what you do today, because without it, there's no tomorrow. So while I totally respect somebody who's a futurist, in all due respect, it's about now, because there may not be a future. So you look at the profit. What is the profit, the promise, the proof, the power for us to make money? And the answer now lies in leveraging the power of AI. Now, when you leverage the power of AI, you're faced with a puzzle. And the puzzle brings us all back to the P's. There's the problem again. How do we get more profit? How do we prosper in uncertain times? How do we revitalize? How do we reinvigorate? How do we re-inform our people with all of the things that are going on in their life, that their performance, their profits are all interrelated because of the focus on the deliverables to your customer, and your customers are also your members. So in recent months, you cannot pick up a newspaper, you cannot turn on the news, you cannot talk to someone without everyone talking about all the AI tools that are out there. Hundreds of AI tools, all of them designed to make our life easier, and yet there's a cost associated, there's a learning curve associated. How do you decide what to do? So say hello to my little friend. I like to focus. So I've looked at ChatGPT. ChatGPT got 1 million users in 5 days. It took Netflix 3.5 years to get that same number. So it got my attention, and I decided I would laser focus on it and learn how to leverage the power to create competitive differentiation. And that's what I will help your members understand. When you use me at your next meeting, at your next workshop, at your next board of directors meeting, how are you going to leverage this amazing tool? So what is it? It's the most experienced, brightest assistant you could ever hire. It speaks 39 languages. It has every college degree you could ever ask for. It knows everything about everything, but it's never run a business. It's never had bottom line responsibility. It has no emotion. And most importantly, it doesn't check its own work. So you have to train it. But train it means that if you need speed, if you need efficiency, if you need a powerful business assistant that doesn't break the bank, doesn't ask for a lot of money, doesn't take coffee breaks, etc., then ChatGPT is your choice. And let me show you why. There's a lot of use cases for it, and I can't possibly give you all of them today. But let me just give you a couple. You can use it for member acquisition by writing great content, member benefits by writing great content, member retention by writing great content. But along the way, you can come up with blogs, infographics, webinars, podcasts, websites, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, all with the power of ChatGPT. You can use it for lead generation. You can increase markets and research. You can enhance your data analysis. You can improve your communications, whether it's video, audio, written, or any other methodology. You can do more research quicker and faster. You can create training and education. It is the most innovative tool because it comes up with light bulb ideas that you may not have ever thought of. And it's scalable. So you must focus. It's like going to Costco's. You go to Costco's, you think about the hot dog at $1.50. You think about the rotisserie chicken you're going to buy for $4.95. But somehow you got all these choices when you get there. If you remain focused, you go down the aisle and you get what you came for. But we don't do that. And that's the same problem you're going to face with ChatGPT and AI. You must focus, or your shopping cart gets so full, you won't be good at anything. Let me put it to you another way. You could be the fastest track star in the world, but if I'm driving a Porsche Turbo, you're not going to catch me. And ChatGPT is the Porsche Turbo of business today. If you're not using it, if you're not ready to engage in it, then there's no reason to bring me. But if you are, if you're ready to understand the power of leveraging ChatGPT for your...
Thank you, Jim. Appreciate that. We will get moving on to our next speaker. Okay. Erika Gilchrist has earned the title of the Unstoppable Woman. She has built a thriving business from absolutely nothing to now being the owner of the largest expo for women in business in Chicagoland. She has published 13 books and a speaker of 24 years. Ms. Gilchrist is an expert in personal development, leadership training, burnout reduction, and conflict management skills. She's been featured as one of the 15 most powerful women on the South Side of Chicago. Also in Chicago Woman magazine, channels WCIV, CLTV, and Rolling Out magazine. I give you Erika Gilchrist.
Thank you, Ed. Thank you so much. I appreciate the platform. So I am going to share just a little bit about my story so that you can understand why topics like leadership development, overcoming adversity, reducing stress and burnout is so incredibly important to me. So this is me at the age of 5. So at 3 years old, my father was killed in a tragic train accident. And my mother was so stricken with grief that she disappeared and no one can find her. So I went to live with my grandmother, who raised her kids, her grandkids, and her great-grandkids. And while I was in that household, I was sexually abused by those who were supposed to be there to protect me. At the age of 19, I moved out of the house, ready to conquer the world, but instead, the world conquered me. I found myself in 2 abusive relationships. And when I escaped my last abusive relationship, I found myself sleeping in my van in the dead of winter in Chicago. When it got to be too cold, I moved into a women's shelter where I shared a single bedroom with 5 other women and their children. And while I was there, I decided I didn't want to be here anymore, meaning Earth, and I tried to commit suicide. So if we to recap my life up until that point, abandoned at the age of 3, abused during my formative years, homelessness, domestic abuse, and a suicide attempt. For all intents and purposes, I should be a basket case, but I am not. So let's fast forward to today. Today, I am an award-winning speaker. I am a 13-time published author, and I own the largest expo for women in business in Chicago on the 99th floor of the iconic Willis Tower. I love my life. The things I'm going to talk to you about today is not theory. It's not something I read. It's not something I heard. I lived it. This is the number one question I get after I share my story. Girl, how you do that? And there wasn't just like one specific thing that happened. It was a series of things that happened over a period of time. And I'm going to give you 3 of them, and I'm going to count them down. Y'all ready? Let's go. Number 3, I had to learn how to unlock my fullest possible potential. But you're not going to be able to unlock unless you get rid of the things that block that process. If I were to ask you right now, on a scale of 1 to 10, how do you feel about your life? If 1 is, Erika, it's so bad, I really just want to go crawl under a bridge somewhere and not come out. And 10 being, Erika, I feel so great, I feel like I can fly. Whatever that number is, chances are you used 1 or more of these things to come up with that number. Maybe you think about how much money you make, or your relationship status, or where you work, or your physical appearance, whatever it is. I call these misguided assessments because you do not ever want to use these things to assess your worth. And you don't want to use them because the moment any of these things become threatened, then your self-worth and your value also becomes threatened. You cannot unlock to your best possible potential if you remain bound to conditional circumstances. You are not valuable because of these things. You're valuable in spite of them. We've reached number 2. Number 2, you want to engage the process. This is going into life full throttle, unapologetically. This is where you go toe to toe with the things that scare you. You start taking risks. You're making mistakes. It's, I don't know if this is going to work, but I'm going to try this anyway. And you're not going to be able to do that until you learn how to trust your voice. And you can slap whatever name you want to on it. My voice, my conscience, my instinct, my gut feeling. It doesn't matter what word you use. You've got to learn how to trust it. I remember being the MC for a college recruiting event. We're talking like 1,000 college students. There's like Fortune 500 companies there. And there was this test that they had to take. And when it got close to the time to take the test, those poor students, they were so nervous, sweat, pit stains, and they're just sweating all over the place. And I'm like, all right, so we're going to have to shift the mood a little bit. And I went over to the DJ and I said, when we come back from break, I want you to play this song. I want to loosen them up. And he's looking at the agenda. I'm like, no. It's not there. I got this feeling. I just need you to trust me. When I give you the signal, hit the song. He's like, all right, boss, you got it. I get on stage. The break is over with. I'm like, all right, everybody, we're going to loosen things up a little bit. DJ, hit it. The DJ starts playing the song and I'm up there and I'm dancing. And I quickly realize I am the only fool in the room who's dancing. And I'm on the stage thinking, yeah, this was a bad idea. This was a bad idea. But slowly, students started coming up on stage and they started dancing with me. And I looked out into the sea of people and these students are like dancing on the tables and they're dancing on the chairs. They signed the insurance waiver, so, whatever. What I did not know in the moment is that moment got captured. Look at their faces. They were a lot more relaxed when they went in there and they did exceptionally well. And I wouldn't have been able to get them to that point had I not trusted my gut. We're at number 1. This is where you thrive. The thriving portion is where you teach other people how to unlock. This is where you teach other people how to engage the process, scared and all, by learning how to trust your voice. And at this point, you all are thriving all at the same time. Once you learn how to unlock, once you learn how to engage, and you teach other people how to thrive in that space, you have reached a point that I like to call trilateral mastery. What? You want someone to come into your company and talk about leadership development? I'm your speaker. You want the stress and the burnout of your staff to be reduced? You call on me. You need someone to come in and talk about overcoming adversity? I'm going to say yes, because this is what I do. This is all I do. I run my mouth for a living, but I've got something to say. I want to thank Cigar Peg for offering us this platform. And that's all I got for today. Thank you.
Thanks, Erika. I appreciate that. I thought you were going to kind of end this thing with a dance, but what can I say? Okay, hey, that was a lot of fun. There was 6 speakers that shared their expertise. There will be each of them will have their own page at the Virtual Speakers Hall of Fame. You will have access to their website, so forth. Feel free to contact them directly. Now, for kind of a fun time to end this thing, we have a professional summarizer. His name is Dale Irvin. He is an inaugural member of the Virtual Speakers Hall of Fame. So yes, he is a certified Virtual Speaker Hall of Famer. But more importantly, at your meetings, bringing Dale in to have him go around and listen to what was said and kind of tell your people what they might have missed is just an amazing way to engage the audience, to keep the people there. I'll let Dale Irvin tell you a little bit more about what he does. Dale?
Thank you very much, Ed, and thank you all for being here. First of all, let me explain one thing. I have just returned from my vacation, which was about 10 days in a log cabin in the woods. While I was there, I thought, hey, here's an idea. I'll try and grow one of those beards that all old guys have. And this is a 10-day growth. I don't think it's getting much better. I've achieved basically the homeless look. So please just imagine, if I come and speak for you, it will be gone. Anyhow, what I do is I go to conventions, whether they're virtual or real. I listen to all the speakers, I attend all the events, and then once or twice a day, I will summarize what everybody has experienced in the form of a comedy monologue that I've written on the spot. That being said, here is what I garnered from today's 6 speakers in a quick summary. First, we heard from Bill Humbert, the recruiter guy, who after Easter, he decided to hitchhike to LA. That must have been one heck of an Easter egg hunt he was on. Anyhow, he had a anagram, or whatever you call those words that all mean for something. It was SCAMP: strategy, challenges, attitude, measurable, public, and S. And SCAMP was actually the name of the dog in Lady and the Tramp. So I made one for Tramp, which is be true, be real, apples, mushrooms, and Pontiac. I couldn't think of anything else for the last 3 words. And then he got picked up by an artist in a ladder truck who turned down Walt Disney and slept on the side of the road in a sleeping bag. Doing that in the woods I just came from is known to the bears as a soft taco. So, that's never a good thing. And then he arrived in LA right after the Charles Manson massacre, and he was hitching to San Francisco, picked up by 4 hippie chicks who, was snuggling up to him and probably in another 5 miles would have killed him. And then, let's see, and then it's all about proper goal setting. I'll tell you what, if I, needed to get to Los Angeles, I'd buy a car. I would not hitchhike. Second of all, we heard from April Callis-Birchmeier, talked about change. Personally, I do not like change. I keep all of my change in a big jug in the corner of the bedroom. It's now gotten too heavy to take to the bank. I hate all change. When I hear that somebody has died penniless, I say, good for him. Huh? He got rid of all of his change. She also had one of those word things. It was ready, relevant, and adventure, developed, the why of change. So I went for the next word in, after ready, which would be set, which is study, entomology, and tuna. And then she talked about going to the gym. First you go 7 days a week, then you go 5 days a week, then you go 3 days a week. And it gave me another genius idea. I'm going to open a bar called The Gym. Honey, I'm off to the gym again. Take care. And it'll be wonderful. Plus, there's no sweating, so, and we will have showers though. And then, and then finally, she talked about the little boy who cried wolf. And, eventually when the wolf came, nobody listened to him and nobody cared. This really is enacted each and every day in the U.S. Congress.
Yeah.
Turn my page, please. These are all notes I've just made. Adia, I hope I'm pronouncing your Addy, I heard him call you. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. He asked, have you ever had a leak in your toilet? And to be perfectly honest with you, that's the principal place I take a leak, unless I'm on a road trip and then it's the side of the road. But yeah, I've had plenty of leaks in my toilet. He said that technology will build you a rocket when you wanted a bicycle. So all you have to do is combine the two. You get a rocket bicycle, you sell it to Wile E. Coyote. Okay, that's a simple end there. And he said, what is a good listener? Do you have to listen till your ears bleed? If your ears are bleeding, you are sitting too close to the amplifier. Okay, I learned that in the 70s. All right. Then we heard from Gregg Gregory, who talked about teamwork and his system, which was OPT, on-purpose teams, as opposed to OPT, as opposed to mine, which is OOPS, which is, oops, it wasn't my fault. He said, imagine that you're 10 years old and it's cold and it's rainy and your friend comes over and you're in the basement playing video games. And I got to tell you, when I was 10 years old, video games didn't exist. All right. We had, at the best, we had Monopoly. Nothing got broke. So, you know, it was much safer time. And then he talked about Apollo 13, where one of the guys, 3 days before the trip, he got the measles and then replaced with another guy because they had trust in that guy. And then they sent Apollo 13 up and the thing, part of it blew up. And they said, Houston, we got a problem. And the third guy in has got to be saying, just my luck, you know, it's just my luck. The other guy got measles. I don't really want to be here. And then he said, share your knowledge. I do that all the time. If you will buy me a beer, I'll tell you everything I know. Next, we heard from Jim Feldman, who said, do you have too much month at the end of your money? If you did, perhaps you should switch to a different calendar. The Georgian or perhaps Aztec calendar would be a much better use for you. And he said, AI is here and we need to use it, but it still won't make the cable guy come on time. And he calls himself a nowist, not a futurist, but a nowist, because there may not be a future. Well, all right, there's something to look forward to. What a happy thought. And then AI, by the way, stands for artificial intelligence, which it frightens me a little bit, but not as much as RS, which is real stupidity. And until we can get that cleared up, you know, it's right now it's more powerful than AI. And then he talked about Chat GPT, and once again, I don't understand exactly how that works. To me, it's more like Chat WTF. I really don't get it. So I need to take Jim's seminar. And finally, he goes to Costco and buys stuff he doesn't need. That's why I have a list, you know, write it down. That's my little tip for folks. Write it down. Finally, we heard from Erika Gilchrist, the unstoppable woman. And her story was she started off as a child, and that really kind of sucked. And then she got older, and then it sucked even worse. And I'm sorry about that. But now she's on top, and she too has a 3-step program. Number 3 is unlock. You have to unlock. My uncle Ernie tried to unlock the cell he was in, but they put him right back in. They caught him and said, no, you can't do that. And then secondly, she said, you have to engage, trust your voice. Well, engaging usually leads to marriage, where your only voice becomes, yes, dear. So that's there. And then finally, thrive and drive to the hive without the jive to be alive. I had nothing else for that. Anyhow, folks, invite me to come to your meeting. I will make your attendees laugh. I will make them talk to each other about things they just heard and bring a good time to everybody. Thank you for this time. And now I'll return it to Ed Rigsbee.
Thank you, Dale. Appreciate that. Hey, everybody, I got to say thanks so much for attending, for watching the speakers. Thank you to each of the speakers that shared their expertise. And hidden in the background is thank you to Joe Crusillo, who is the producer to make all this work, because I can't push all the buttons at once. Thank you, everybody. And the next showcase will be in December sometime, because I don't have my calendar open, but it will be in December. We'll catch you all in December. Bye-bye.